So now we can take a look at like the package JSON, and I can zoom in. Look at that. Look at that. We can read everything now. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that wonderful? I might start using WebStorm in my live streams if I can get this to keep working. Okay. Scripts / Oh, these are comments. I was like, why are these comments? Scripts. Many developers find our check scripts tools have moved to our ng dev tool. Find the usage you're looking for help with. Let's run that command and see what it shows us. Oh, right. I'm in the wrong location. cd -git, cd angular. Okay. All right. I guess having the // key is a way to have JSON comments. Yeah. It's kind of weird, but it's cool. I've done it before. I just forgot about... I've never seen someone do a // So that must be their way of indicating start comments, end comments. It does look very inelegant. I definitely agree. It's very obnoxious. All right. So that seems like they have tools for formatting. Caretaker. I don't know what Caretaker does. That seems interesting. Okay. So we have a lot of dependencies. Angular 1.6. What? What is that under dependencies? I'm confused. Oh, that's Angular. No. Yeah, what is Angular 1.6? Distribution on NPM and Bower. The source is in the main Angular. That's weird. Wonder what they're using that for. Huh. Dev dependencies are not used under Bezel. Many can be removed after test.sh is deleted. Overwrite graceful. One does not rely. Okay, so they're doing a lot of monkey patching here, which is interesting. Okay, so let's look at packages. What is Goldens? I don't know. Okay. So actually, do they have a contributing file? Code of conduct. They do have a contributing file. Let's read that. Okay. We'd love for you to contribute to Angular, help make it even better than it is. As a contributor, here's our code of conduct. Okay, keep an Angular inclusive. I'm going to assume that it's not bad. Although we can read through the code of conduct. Oh, it's super short. Okay. They mentioned Google plus F. As contributors and maintainers of an Angular project, what if I just made a pull request to just remove the Google plus from the list? That'd be terrible. That'd be bad. That'd be especially bad because of Oktoberfest or Hacktoberfest. We're not going to do that. Okay. Respect everyone. No trolling, personal attacks, harassment, insults, and professional conduct. Everyone's equal. We extend courtesy regardless of gender, identity, sexual orientation, race, etc. Yep. No kappas in the source code. Oh no. If any member of the community violates... I don't want to open that link. Oh, I was going to open it and put it offline, but that's... Okay, anyways. If any member of the community violates this, they're gone. Email us. Cool. Didn't think that would be a link. Well, it was, Jaden. Got a question. We do not recommend open issues for questions. Okay. Found a bug, you can submit a bug request. Missing a feature, you can request a new feature. If you'd like to implement it, please consider the size of the change in order to determine the right steps. Haven't posted a link since the incident. That's good. So you did learn the lesson. Submission guidelines. This isn't really... Okay. Submitting a pull request. Nope. After pull request is merged, nope. Coding rules. Must be tested with specs. Must be documented. We follow JavaScript guidelines. Wrap all code at 100 cars. Yeah, I've used this before. Their commit message standard. That's their type. That's their scope. That's their summary. They're still going into it. Signing the CLA. All right, that didn't help us. That's okay. That's still really good information. It's just not what I thought it was going to be. I don't really want to read through all this right now. This doc is for developing Angular. It is not a public documentation for building an Angular project with Bezel. F. Caretaker is responsible for blah blah blah. Debug. Debugging Karma. Yeah. Developer. Ooh, this is actually useful. Kinda. We'll come back to that. Naming. Wow, okay. Full TypeScript naming conventions. Alright. The incident. Public API, release schedule, developer. Okay. Let's dive in. Let's look at... We have Zone.js. What is Goog.js? Typing's for Google Closure. Huh. Oh, blimey. Oh, hang on. Sorry about that. All right. So let's see here. Let's start reading in core. That it is toilet paper. Yes, I don't know why I have it in here. I have allergies all the time. All right. And your core is 00 placeholder. Schematics migration. Okay. So let's do source. Look, they have their dependency injection system. They have their renderer 3 code base. They have all sorts of stuff. They have their compiler. Allergic to code. Poor baby. Yeah, you're not wrong. All right. Zone.ts, that's a public API. Renderer. Yes. Render 2. You know what? I want to start with something simple. Let's look at ng content. So we should say select name. Here we go. Here's where the interesting stuff starts, because this is their parser. What are all these for? Did that actually... there's no way that said what I thought it says. It does! Oh my gosh! It's in the code base! Ed called it! What is that for? What is, named entities. It's part of the W3 specification. What is a kappa? I've never heard of this. Oh, it's a K. Why is it not? Oh my god, W3. Oh, it's because it's a file the size of Mars. That's why it's not scaling instantly. Right, Greek alphabet, yeah. Oh, what have I done? I expected it to scale instantly, and then I sat there and scrolled in and out, left and right, and up and down. Close. Go away, close. That's funny, though. I still find that funny that my chat was just talking about that. And sure enough. Okay. So, is ng content exists here? Does ng content have a component, though? That's what I want to know. Selector. Boop. Selector. Projection.ts. Component factory module. I think it's right here, to be honest. Oh well. Okay, so we have this is ng content, which is used in the DOM element schema. Okay. This is what I had to do before. So a bit of context. The reason why I'm starting here is because I've already read this part of source code before. So in the source code, or in Unicorn utterances, if you go all the way to the second blog post ever, there's my Angular templates talk, and I actually read through a lot of this source code when I was doing that because it's interesting. Okay, so this is the DOM element schema. So that's not really what we want, because this is the code that basically validates your DOM schema. So it's making sure that your HTML elements aren't just random elements. They actually have some value to them. Angular, what's up, Matteo? It's been a minute. All right. So that's the element registry. So this is the parser, but I want to see the template preparser. Okay. Preparse element type is an enum. That's interesting. I don't know. I'm surprised by there being an enum in Angular source code because it makes sense, but I'm just surprised. I don't know. Okay. So what is preparse element used for? It's directive element or directive normalizer. Let's look at template parser. So here we have try parse HTML, expand HTML. I'm beginning to think that I should have brought up an Angular project for this. Okay. Content select. Link, href, non-bindable. Yeah, this is the Angular compiler. So we are reading through the source code of Angular itself. Right now we're starting with the compiler just so that I can remind myself how some of this actually works, because I've actually read some of the compiler source code before. And then once we're done with this, I'm actually going to take a dive into the dependency injection system because someone had requested me to take a look at that. Normalize the select attribute. So basically, if you don't provide the select attribute, it will be star, which means that you're grabbing everything. Okay. So style element. Yeah, thank you. So feel free to ask any questions. This is going to be a very loose kind of impromptu stream. So if you have any questions about hey, how does this work in Angular? We'll go find out together. We'll read through the source code and see how it's done. So, new pre-parsed element is of type style, type sheet. Okay, so this is basically avoiding the switch case problem. It's saying if the type is, it's going to be an other if it's not an ng content, a style tag, a script tag, or a style sheet tag. Which makes sense. Okay, so that's a pre-parse element. So visit element, I'm assuming this works similarly to how the Babel parser works. Babel parser is pretty straightforward, where the idea is you have nodes in a tree and you visit those trees. It's pretty standard stuff with a compiler. Okay, so if it is a type, skipping style, since we already processed the IO in the style compiler, okay. Skipping that. Okay, so assuming that it's not a script or a style sheet. That's where we process them in style compiler. Okay. We have matchable attributes, element or directive props. You found an NPM package called Kappa. Fantastic. Proud of you, Jaden. Doing good. Keep it up. Aaron lint vars. Okay. So we have parse vars. We has binding. Thanks, Dad. No problem. What is parser? Is template. Oh, geez. Look at how many variables there are in this. Okay. So we have normalize attribute name. Recently, I digged into an issue with Angular forms getting an undefined implicit .key. I was not able to trace that down into ng select and ng option to know if a missing value was an option, was a problem or not. Yeah. Recently, what I had to do was, where was? I'm trying to remember what even the code was that I used here. If we can go on my Twitter, because that's where I posted about it. Recently, I had a problem with Angular where I was trying to figure out where the dependency injection problem was happening. There we go. Inject. What is it? Inject. Injector only. Yeah. So I was like diving through this code and I was saying something along the lines of like, stop it. I was saying something along the lines of if token dot name equals and then the name of the key, then debugger, because I was trying to figure out where the dependency injection system was injecting something that I was expecting to be a singleton from, and it was not a singleton. So I was trying to figure out where it was coming from and why, and then that helped me debug the problem because I figured out where it was hosting the dependency injection provider from, and then I was able to remove it. I kind of wish this parser had more comments because I don't understand what's happening here. KW bind index. Group 1 bind let. Yeah, easy. Yeah, no problem at all, right? It's very simple stuff. Okay. It's basically English, Corbin. Why do you need comments? Pfft, look at this noob asking for comments and stuff. Can you believe this? Okay. So basically it's looking for a bind on, or ref, which is interesting because I'm familiar with let, but I'm not familiar with what ref or on or bind on are. So I'm curious, what happens if we search for this? Template syntax. Bind on is a two-way but data binding. Huh. Bind on is a two-way binding where, because I'm not familiar with the syntax, so I'm curious. I mean, part of the reason why I'm breaking through the source code is because I actually want to read and understand and learn new things. And at some point, finding documentation isn't the easiest thing to do. Syntax for a two-way binding is as follows. As a two-way binding, bind on target is also a two-way binding where bind sets the value from source and on sets the target. Huh. So I guess, Jiminy Christmas, why am I burping and hiccuping so much? So that's interesting. I guess the braces is an alternative syntax to the bind and the on and the bind on, which is interesting because I never knew. So I'm assuming that bind is binding to the actual thing, and then on is, bind is going in, so it's the one way, and then on is the outputs, so like on change or on whatever. So bind on is the combination back and forth between, so like an ng var. Right? Yeah. and then at. I'm assuming this is the regex. So here, actually, let's pull out this regex. Go into regex 101. And then here we can say something like hello, or we can say hello, and I'm assuming that's going to match, and I'm assuming this is going to match. Yep, and then on hello, bind on hello, let hello. It's actually really not that bad. It's a lot to read because of all the escapes, but this is for, if we remove this, this one won't match anymore, or at least it won't match the proper way that it's supposed to. If we remove this, then this won't match anymore. If we remove this, then this won't match anymore. Yeah, so like it's not too hard to read once you're familiar with regex. It's just a bit like wonky because there's a lot of escapes in here. So it makes sense why they're doing it. But yeah, that's not bad. And then I'm assuming this is for click listeners. Yeah. That's not bad. That's not bad. That makes a lot of sense now. It's honestly just weird to see something that's more readable in Vim regex. Yeah. Yeah. I'm also admittedly kind of a regex nerd, so feel free to just like disregard like what I'm saying and be like, "Wow, Corbin, thanks for the, you know." Like just don't feel bad. Identifier inside of that binding. What is ref though? I want to see what Angular ref is. Hey, what's up, Jahir? How you doing? Hey, Sashi. What's up? Can we just play games? Oh, is var an alternative way? Jair, I'm sorry. Play DM beef stew? What about beef stew? Kappa regex. Perfect. Okay. Attribute. May I say your name again? I'm gonna get it wrong though. I'm sorry, Jair. I feel bad. We've been friends for so long, and I still can't friggin' pronounce your name properly. There was once upon a time where I could, and now, aha! So there is an alternative syntax. Ha ha ha! I'm evil. Yes, you are. You can use the ref prefix alternative to blank. Okay, I didn't know that there was an alternative that you could do that to. That's interesting. So like, Angular has. That's interesting. I might have to write a short blog post about that. Because I had never known about bind on, or ref, which is interesting. And in fact, the bind on and ref and pound are exactly the same thing. Ooh, that's interesting. Yeah, Ed's here, and Ed is a mod, so be afraid. Okay. He timed me out. That's because I told him to time you out. What's up, Devi? Devi. I almost meant to say Dev Cookie, but it came out as Devi. So that's fun. My bad. Welcome, Dev Cookie Land. Hi, Ed, I guess. Ed's a mod. I love how everyone's just talking about Ed. No one has any clue. Newcomers who don't know about Ed are probably just like, what's happening? So congrats, Ed. You're a superstar. You have more attention here than me, which is good. Yeah, who the hell is Corbin? Devi. What's up, Snake? So Dev Cookie Land, we're just reading through Angular source code. Right now we're reading through the Angular compiler. And I am just now learning about the bind on keyword syntax alternative to the Let's see, do I still have that tab open? Of course I don't, so now I'm just jabbering. Yeah, it's exciting stuff. I think it's cool. Angular stuff what? Reading Angular's compiler, that's what. So yeah, we have the bind syntax is caught here. And then the let syntax is caught here. Hey, Debbie. You got a hey, you get a hey, everyone gets a hey. Look, I like saying hello to people. I'm friendly, or at least I want to pretend to be friendly. It's better than like me beating up on you, Ed, like I usually do. Like, Ed, shut up, you jerk. Okay, so that's the ref identifier. Jaden, you got a hey. Don't pretend like you didn't get a hey, Jaden. I said it way early on. I said, hey. Everyone appreciates the hays. You ready for this? What's up, Rick? How you doing? Hey, hey. Jaden, you did. Do you want to get... It's a hey day. What? Okay. So we have parse event. I'm curious what parse event does. If animation label, parse animation event, parse Liger event. Oh, right. Because the binding for the animation event is the same as binding for an input. So that's why they would have this defined here. Family and violence, that is the Ed and Crutch for. That's the main attraction. Oh, jeez. Dev Cookie Land, I'm sorry that you had to stumble upon this random violence in our chat. I promise we're a welcoming environment. Ed and I just have a very special friendship. All right. Parse regular event. Yeah, Rick got a hey. I promise to say hello to every person that I see in chat. New or old. Okay. Split it colon. Long format target event name. Is there another target syntax? Okay, hang on. I'm actually going to start a Sublime text. So we will copy and paste this into here. Hey, Dev Cookie Land is following. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Okay, so let's see here. The only valid answer to that is a follow. I appreciate it. Very cool. Okay, so let's see here. We have on bind, ng model. Oh, I got these wrong. Bind is this. And then ref is equal to var. What about Nightbot? What about uptime? It's the violence that's for the follow. Yes. Okay. Bottom of page. Don't we have the yeah, I was figuring the exclamation point commands. What is add quote? Bad design. Ed, you're so much better at this. Anyways, what I was gonna say is that there's some interesting stuff you can find on these deep dives. Example, Doki Doki Literature Club uses an undocumented renpy function to create creepy tracebacks that actually look like errors. That's really interesting. Yeah, Doki Doki is a really interesting game for its code. Because it's all Python, so like you can just read the source code flat out. And they have all sorts of interesting secrets in there. I got really into Doki Doki when it first came out. Do they have a kappa in it? Every good code base has the word kappa in it, whether it's referring to the Latin letters or anything like that. It's, you know, it's always in there. All right, so we have the ref. Was that the only thing we found out about? We have bind on, we have let. Let is for ng templates, so it's another way of defining context interpolation. So if you have the context of ng template, and then actually I can pull this up in the article I wrote. Is this it? Yeah. So like here, if you pass in a context, of course I just scrolled and it moved. So yeah, here we have like, come on, where's the code that's relevant? I want the code that's relevant. There we go. So like on an ng template, if you provide a context to that template, you can use that variable name as an interpolated value. But I'm curious now, because that's the binding parser. So that's how they're able to parse events and animation events and regular events and all that stuff. Which is interesting. So that's how they parse event bindings. And then property binding is here. It's part of the binding parser. If it starts with an animated prop prefix, and bind it to the animations. But then they also have parse property AST. Target props dot push parse property name AST default. Cool. But I'm curious, how do they bind the let? So here, if it's a okay. So if let is used on something that isn't an ng template, which is defined by the pre-parser. Oh, that's interesting. So they're able to detect. So it seems like ng content and ng template. I'm curious if, hang on. Tags also has to have ng template, ng container. ng container tags. View compiler. Yeah, so it has to have this here. I've been live for 42 minutes. Also, Ed, how did you get so good at Nightbot, like overnight? Like you managed to instantly get really good at Nightbot. It's incredible. Okay. That's the view compiler, which is interesting because I think that this is slightly different. Nightbot has fantastic docs. You just copied and pasted it. What do you mean it's not programming? I don't know. I think Ed is a pretty good programmer, given that he's not like dedicated to programming. Okay, so we have the bind parts. Looking at the 7 identifier. Parse variable dash is not allowed in the variable name. Okay, so that's still building out the tree. I've lost what I was looking at, but okay. We have a pretty good idea of what we're looking at. Oh, template parser is over here. Half of programming is just copying and pasting code from Stack Overflow. Exactly. Right, exactly. I feel included. You should feel included, Ed. I mean, Ocean Pit wouldn't be a thing without you, and like, a bunch of my projects wouldn't exist without you. So where's visit element called? Let's run a because now we have a pretty good idea about like how attributes are parsed, generates a tree. Makes sense. So let's find where visit element is called. Find usages. Okay, so we have the element.visit. Now can we find the usages of this? Language service. Actually, that's kind of interesting. Let's go look at the language service. Get template completions. Because this is how Angular is able to provide information to like IDEs. So something like VS Code or WebStorm or something like that. This is how Angular is able to provide language extensions. So File name, position. So get template AST at position. AST result is template AST, pipes, parser errors. Nice. Language service rules. Exactly. Language service is pretty dope. Get template completions from the AST. Given the AST, we have the position, the HTML path, and it will get element completions, and it will find selector. That's kind of interesting. So it'll try to find the matching element to what you're working on and try to provide the most specific. Yeah, that's pretty cool. You prefer standalone language servers since those work in Vim, but those are just front end for language services, so that's pretty cool too. Yeah. Because TypeScript has its own language server as well, but Angular has a one on top of that. So to do a solution based on word expansion will always be expensive compared to one based on ASTs. Whatever penalty, I'm curious about what this is saying. Yeah, TS server. Whatever penalty we incur is probably manageable for small length identifiers, but the current solution involves a number of branching, and we can't control potentially very long identifiers. Consider moving to an AST solution once one of the existing difficulties with AST spans are more clearly resolved. See 138 for discussion. No problems. I'm gonna bookmark that. Can I bookmark that? How do I bookmark? Set bookmark. We'll come back to that. See you guys later. Gotta write some trash React code. Alright, see ya, Snake. Dev Cookie Land. How does Angular's ng templates differ from normal Shadow DOM templates? That's a good question. Well, for one, it's actually memory serving. I'm probably very wrong on this, but I think ng templates were introduced in version 4. Template versus ng template. I could have, yeah. 4.0 in 4.0 template is depreciated and changed to ng template. So template was originally used to answer your question in Angular version 2, and then version 4 depreciated that in favor of ng template, and that was in order for they're similar in like that they don't really render anything and stuff like that, but they changed it so that the Angular specific stuff, like ng template being able to add the let context and stuff like that, was easier to parse for the compiler without breaking what's the term? Web components. So it was a web component interop thing, which is why they migrated from version 2 to version 4. I believe, anyways. Obviously, I'm not part of the dev team, so that was just called an educated guess, and I've also read some blog posts that I think indicated as much at the time. Because I know at the time there was a really big push to get Angular Elements up and running, because Angular 4 memory serving was about the time that I think it was Jeff Cross who was leading the one, or even if he wasn't leading on it, I know he was working on it for Angular Elements to become a thing. So, what is ML Parser? But they both sit on Shadow Root. That is a JetBrains IDE. This is WebStorm, and I'm using WebStorm. Yes, Jaden, that's a JetBrains IDE. Do they both sit on Shadow Root? I believe that Angular has a way to compile down to Shadow DOMs and stuff like that. Although I haven't heard any notice for a long time based off of that. But I think by default, ng templates don't render at all. So they don't sit on anything. They kind of just sit there. And then you're able to inject them into the DOM. Not the Shadow DOM, but just a normal DOM. But yeah, I think that Angular is working... Either they're working on or has a way to get Shadow DOM rendering so that all of your components are part of their own Shadow DOMs. So. Visit, returning a truth or value, returning from visit will prevent visit all. Okay. Oh, so this is what I'm looking at. Okay. What are you going on about, Jaden? Web Typhoon? Web Katrina, Web Storm. Oh. You think you're so clever, Jaden. Oh no. Oh no. What is the ML parser? Let's close this. I bring the bad jokes. Yes, you do. Now I get the joke after Corbin said, yeah, it took me a minute. I'm like, Web Typhon? Web Typhoon? Web Ty something. I didn't understand what was being said, so I was confused. So I had to read it out loud. WombatDressingRoom.appspot.com? Absolutely. Let's open that right on up. Whoa. Why is it called Why is it called Wombat Dressing Room? That's adding shitstorm to your windy thing. Looks modern. That's a good URL. Mama inside Google. Well, I can't sign into this because obviously I'm not a Google employee. So that's as far as we go. But I deeply appreciate that it's called Wombat Dressing Room. .appspot.com. I think that's beautiful. Uber proxy. Also, I love how it's off level over 9,000! Ah! I'm just saying, it's a good URL. I definitely agree. I've only seen that website website UI once trying to look at internal design files for the Gmail design. Yeah, I've seen it more than a few times. Yeah, I've seen it a lot, actually. It's not my first rodeo diving into source code that I probably shouldn't be diving into. Probably shouldn't, doesn't make it. Okay, compiler. Export from public API. You'll need Telly's help getting those files? I don't know. I don't know what you're saying. Woo! Awesome. Yeah, who's that? What's that? Where's that? Okay. Create a tribute. Create content. Delete scape. Oh, yeah. Provided intel leak. We're not getting into that right now. You're not making it any easier for my lizard brain. Oh, that's funny. All right, so we have create view child for view children. Interface component extends directive. Yeah, proof right there. The proof's in the pudding. View encapsulation. Change detection strategy. Attribute maker, namespace URI, render flags. All right, well, we spent about an hour now on the compiler, which I think makes a bit of sense, and we've learned some things from here. So I'm wondering, do we want to go into, that's testing, that's source. I'm debating if we want to get into util version. Yeah, I think we're going to take a look at the dependency injection system now. Because we can, darn it. Ooh, and that's a compiler CLI. Ooh, that'll be interesting. We might have to come back to that. But for now... What are we looking for? I just opened it. It's on my Twitter. Gotta go back to my Twitter. Okay, it's right here. It's inject injector only. Injector compatibility? What do you mean injector compatibility? I thought I was using Ivy. Oh, unless if this is for... Start that injector template is not an FN. This is useful to provide infinite recursion function. Generated instructor injects a token from the currently active injector. Oh, wait, that's literally right here. Must be used in the context of a factory function, such as one defined for an injection token. There was an error if not called from such context. Okay. I have the terrible feeling we're going to get horribly lost trying to read through the dependency injection code. Okay, so we know what I know what an injectable is. That's it. Oh, it's an interface, but it's also const make decorator. Whoa. Whoa. It's almost kind of hard to read with the typings. Suppress global this. All right. Look at that type. No side effects. It's two string function. I'm so confused. Okay. Decorator factory. Dot prototype. Okay, so name is injectable, props is undefined, parent class is undefined, and then type function is switch compile injectable. Where does this come from? Oh, there. Switch compile injectable. Injectable type and options. Options is provided in root platform any. If nothing else, then define injectable. Okay. Construct an injectable def, which defines how a token will be constructed by the DI system, and in which injectors, if any, will be available. This should be assigned to a static eprov field of any type, which will then be on injectable type. Options provided determines which injectors will include an injectable either by associating it with an ND variable or an injector type, which will be available at the application level. Factory gives a zero argument function, which will create an instance of the injectable. What does factory? I love how it's typed never, but it's immediately returned. I guess they really don't want you accessing that. Opaque type, whose structure is often highly dependent, do not rely on any properties. Okay. But the factory is convert injectable provider to factory. Look at this friggin' code. Ed, you're saying you feel like you have a lizard brain. I'm swimming in my own head. This is wild. Meta question. If someone uses close it while you have slobs open, will you just end the stream? No. Although that's very funny. Class provider, functory provider. It is wild. Okay. So let's start back from... Where is it? Injector compatibility. So current injector is null. Current injector used by inject. Undefined, it is an error to call inject. Inject can be called, but there's no injector. Okay. So let's look up the documentation for Angular's dependency injection, actually. Because I know it can be used independently. Also, does that say native? Native script Ionic? Yeah. The worst part is Twitch added cooldowns or rewards, which makes close it much less interesting. Is there any way to remove that? Something else that I noticed is that like my gift subs, they reset in a few days. So I have to figure out a way to reset that. So I know that there's a way to change. I haven't looked it up. Yeah, I have some things that I need to change anyways. Okay. Reference. Conceptual reference, ng modules, dependency injection, lazy load. If I remember correctly, native script is TypeScript to WASM. That's not correct. Native script is a language that does, or it's not a language, it's a framework. It's like React Native, but it's not bound to any specific language. So there's native script core, which allows you to use just JavaScript. Like vanilla JavaScript. There's native script Angular, which allows you to build mobile apps with Angular. And then there's native script Vue, which allows you to build native applications using, Vue. So it's not to WASM, but it converts native. It has a runtime migration from JavaScript to Java or C# or another. Yeah, you've probably seen something else that's TypeScript to WASM because I know it exists. Is that assembly script? Yep. That's what it is. It's assembly script. Dependency injector in JavaScript or in Angular. There's dependency injections. Dependency injection. It's not what I'm looking for, although this is. Okay. So we have provided in root. We have the injectable decorator, the ng module decorator, and the component decorator. Kind of want to go read the component decorator source code. So we'll do that really quick because I'm curious. Okay, so that's going to be in core source. We'll leave dependency injection open. What is this going to be under? Core view zone. Component. There we go. Metadata.directives. There we go. Export interface component extends directive. Change detection strategy. View providers, animations, preserve white space. Depreciated for entry components. Oh, I didn't realize that you could override the interpolation. That's interesting. I'm going to play with that later too. Change detection, view providers, module ID. Module ID of the container. Okay, so here we have the make decorator, and then we have the switch compile component. Okay. Compile an Angular component according to its decorator metadata and patching the resulting component def ECPM into the component type. Compilation may be asynchronous due to the need to resolve URLs for the component template or other resources. For example, in the event that the compilation is not immediate, compile component will in-queue resource resolution in a global queue that will fail to return to the ecomp. Okay. Initialize ngdev mode. Yep. Metadata of the resources which need to be resolved. Note that we're using the same function as directive. That's because only a subset of directive we need to create. We're avoiding using the component metadata because we'd have to resolve the asynchronous step. Makes sense. Okay. So how does template work? If metadata template URL. Compiler, compile component. Oh, and then we're passing compiler. Okay. Huh. All right. Well, I've had enough interest reading through the code for that. Back to what we were looking at originally, the dependency injection system. In order for the hero list component to get the heroes from hero service, needs to be asking yes, this is what I was looking for. So here, we'll finish kind of skimming this. Okay. Injectors and Angular have rules that you can leverage to achieve the desired functionality, visibility of injectables in your app. By understanding these rules, you can determine which ng module, component, or directives you should declare a provider. There are 2 injector hierarchies. There's module injector. Configure a module injector in this hierarchy using an ng module or an injectable annotation. There's element injector, created implicitly at each DOM element, is empty by default unless if you configure it on directive or component. Makes sense. The module injector can be configured in one of 2 ways. The provided in property, right? Or the providers array, right? Because this is the depreciated. It's not depreciated. It's just used for more specific instances. And then this is the more modern method. And then provided in determines special singleton platform injector shared by all applications on the page. Provides a unique instance in each lazy loaded module while eagerly loaded modules share one instance. Yeah. Using the injector is preferable to the providers because with this, optimization tools can perform tree shaking, which removes services that aren't being used. Tree shaking is especially useful for a library because the application which uses the library might not need to inject it. That makes sense. If anyone has any questions or wants to go over anything in particular, please ping me. I realize that I'm just kind of reading out loud. Yep. There are 2 more injectors above root, an additional module injector and a null injector. The bootstrap module. According to all known laws of aviation, there's no way a bee should be able to fly. Its wings are too small to get its fat little body off the ground. The bee, of course, flies anyways, because the bee doesn't care what the human thinks is impossible. Thank you, Jaden. It's a good movie. It's a good film. You can just, you know what? Just do me a favor. Just go ahead and paste the entire movie script in the comments or in the chat. It's good. Go for it. Do it. Clip it. You won't. It'll be the most exciting part of the stream. I'm surprised people are still sticking around for this. This is kind of dry. But I'm willing to engage, darn it. Content creation and engaging the users. Or whatever the friggin' the objective of any of this is. I've already succeeded in my objective. I figured out some things to talk about and like write a blog post about and learn about. So like, that's a W for me. I just hope I'm able to actually help other people instead of just like giving useless things. The objective is to make money from subscriptions. That's not my objective. My objective is to joke and be fun and learn things and have, you know, entertain and educate. I think I made like $5 on subscriptions. If I want subscriptions, it's only so that we can get more emotes. More emotes, more emotes, more emotes. I sound like a PWA ad description. A progressive web app ad description. I'm confused. What do you mean? Dev Cookie Land explained. You want to see a PWA PSA? Here we go. You may not think that a progressive web application is right for your service. However, I want to raise a concern that you can now install PWAs. This makes your application visible from places like, it's not working, shut up, pretend it did work. But you can use your app without the browser or at least without the browser UI. This makes your application so much more effective and useful. The ability to click through the application. I'm sure that if I turned off my internet, it would even work offline. You see, PWAs offer so much usefulness to users that you honestly can't afford not to utilize them in your applications. Make sure you're including PWAs in your apps today. Is that what you were looking for? Is that what you wanted? Is that the content you came for? It's a little aggressive. Did it move this tab when I clicked on the other tab? That's wild. If it did, that's wild. Hey, look. Now it's an app. Did someone say content? Look at this. Now it's an app on my computer. Aren't PWAs great? I'm a PWA shill. Contact your local developer now. Exactly. You can integrate with your favorite. That was real good, engaging content. Thank you, Cookie Land. Thank you. What were we talking about? Injectables? Something like that? Null injector. Okay. Root module injector. The bootstrap creates a child injector of the platform, which is configured by app module. It's the root module injector. Has things for your app. Has things like DOM, sanitizer, platform browser. Okay. And then null injector always throws an error unless if you use optional. Right. Okay, so you know what? Let's go look at null injector code. Here we go. Hey, we found a comment from Misco. Misco? Someone. I think this is like the main person of Angular, if I'm not mistaken. The null injector implements injector get if not found. Intentionally left behind with DevTools open and the debugger will stop here. There is no reason why correctly written application should cause this exception. Uncomment the next line once ng dev mode works in a closure. If nd in dev mode debugger. Huh. Yep. No provider. Alright, see ya, Sashi. Take care, boss. Okay, so then the null injector will do that, and then optional will optional decorator will make the name of optional. Good luck sleeping. Did I say good luck? Did I really say good luck? That sounds so much like me. But did I really say good luck? Gee whiz. Well, the name root is a special alias. Other module injectors don't have an alias. Okay, I did not say good luck. Thank goodness. I was worried that I said, yeah, good luck sleeping. Haha. Like, it makes that you were joking, like, you were being humorous, but if I had just said good luck mindlessly, like, yeah, good luck with that, like, although, given my anxiety keeping me up at night, then good luck is probably appropriate anyways. Oh, so when you say inject to root, you're actually saying inject above the DOM sanitizer. That's interesting. Hang on. Provide at root above DOM sanitizer happens if you try to use DI to get DOM sanitizer from a provide at root service. Null error. That's interesting. So that's something I'm gonna have to make note of, because if my theory is correct, it means that if I create a service and I provide at root and I try to get the DOM sanitizer in my constructor, it'll throw an error. And if that's the case, that would be interesting. All right. If you configure an app-wide provider in the ng module of app, it overrides one configured for root in the injectable metadata. You can do this to configure a non-default provider of a service that is shared with it multiple times. Non-default locate. Okay, so that makes sense. Element injectors. Implicitly for each element, providing a service in the component decorator uses the providers or view providers. Ooh, what are view providers property? In your example, sorry, I need to zoom in. So given this example where view providers is used, in your example, there's no difference between view providers and view providers because Hello World's template does not use ng context. If you're projecting context within ng content, then greater couldn't be injected in the projected content you're using. Oh, the view provider limit provider to children other than projected content, while providers allow all children to use the provider. That value. Huh. That makes sense. This is super interesting to me. This is like, I'm learning a ton right now. This is going to be super exciting, because I'm going to be able to turn a lot of these into blog posts. And right now, like, yeah, I'm just excited. For example, the following test configures the element injector by providing the service as follows. When you provide services in a component, that service is available via the element injector. When the component instance is destroyed, so is that service instance. Makes sense. Hey gang, I'm going to use the restroom really quick, so we're going to take a quick break. And then I will be right back. So take care. I'll be right back. All right, gang, I'm back. Also, I should have said good luck when I had left for my break. All right. Okay. So, component is a special type of directive means that the directive has a provider's property. Yep. Components of director saying the same elements share an injector. Huh. That's interesting. When resolving a token has two phases, it's against its parents and then its module parents. When a component declares its dependency, tries to satisfy that dependency with its own injector. If the component's injector lacks a provider, it passes it up to the parent component's element, so on and so forth, until Angular finds an injector that can handle the request or runs out of ancestor element injectors. If Angular doesn't find any element injectors, it goes back to the place, looks for module injectors. Can be modified with optional self, skip self, and host. Okay. I have no idea what these do. So what does self do? Self parameter. Start dependency from the local injector. Resolution works upwards through the injector hierarchy, so the children of the class must configure their own providers. Be prepared for a null result. Sharing an injector, that must sound weird to non-devs. Yeah, I just realized, yeah, that's fair. I tend to think in a very dev-related way, so I didn't think of it that way, but now that you mention it, that must sound really weird to non-devs. Sharing an injector. Like, what? That's, no. Okay. In the following example, the dependency can be resolved from a local injector when instantiating the class itself, but not instantiating a child. Okay, so injector.create dependency and needs dependency. Dependencies is self dependency. Expected dependency, injector.create providers, parent injector. So it expects itself to start at the bottom and go up. That's interesting. Skip self, dependency. And then host, parameter decorator on a view provider. Parameter, okay. I'll come back to that. Ooh. Ooh, this is super useful. Hang on. Skip self, host, DI modifiers. Angular source notes. I'm going to be writing a blog post about everything that I'm finding here. Especially this. I haven't seen this one before. This is super exciting. Anyways, there are resolution modifiers fall into three categories. If Angular doesn't find what you're looking for, where to start looking, which is skip self, and where to stop looking. Ah, okay. So stop looking self is up, host is down. Okay. By default, Angular always starts the current injector. Keep searching all the way up. Modifiers allow you to change away starting or ending location. Additionally, you can combine all the modifiers except for host and self, and of course skip host or skip self and self. Optional allows Angular. Yep. This is, I'm not going to lie, this one example, I wish I had found this example so much sooner, because this straight up helps me understand the dependency injection system so much better. Like, I get it now. So that's super useful. In this example, there's a parent provider injecting the service. I don't know why I have this pen, by the way. This pen is from an old laptop, and it works with my phone, so I just kind of have it out so I can, like, jot notes down. But I'm just, like, fiddling with it right now because I can. Because fiddling with things is fun, because you can't stop me, because you're in a camera. Ha! I apologize. That was very unprofessional. We won't ever do that again. I'm fidgety when I read code, though. If I can't do things, if I can't move around and do whatever, it's like, I don't know, I just get fidgety. Especially when dealing with, like, complex stuff like this. Skip self with optional. Yep. Okay. So, oh, and here's the view providers array. If look angry. What do you mean if look angry? Do you mean I look angry? I hope I don't. By the way, this camera quality is awful. It's terrible. Like, my shirt is blue, not gray. Like, my face, it's all bad. It's all bad. My lighting is pretty good, but the camera, this camera is like a $20 webcam. We have a $500 Fujifilm camera coming. Like, we got something really good coming. So hopefully the camera should come soon and it will look good. Okay. Yeah, it's blue. Right? Here, let me see if I can change the video to look the blue that it should be. No. Yeah, it looks army green, yeah. Look, that's blue, right? This is the color blue that it is. I don't know why it's all messy. But yeah, like, it looks mud green, yeah. Yeah, no, this camera is just bad. And it changes, like, those settings change every time I restart the camera, or every time I restart OBS, it resets the camera quality. So I have to, like, magically change a bunch of settings to kind of make it look okay. My lighting is actually pretty darn good. It's a little overkill, admittedly. And in fact, I should light up both sides of my face. There we go. Perfect. Yeah, lighting is pretty decent. My green screen works fine, but this camera's got to go. So I'm just waiting for the new one to ship. So I don't know why I have an M here. All right. I was going to stop reading, but let's keep reading. Yeah, it's really blue now. In the child component class, add a provider for flower service to distribute. It's provided in the decorator. The injector will only has to look as far as the element's own. It won't continue the search anymore. Add the binding. The logical tree, it was be represented as following. Injector, flower. Make service visible in the view. Steps are the same with the exception using the view providers array. Okay, here we go. More complex resolution. The difference is that there. Yeah. Excuse me. To see the difference between the providers and view providers, add another component. Need the providers or view providers array. Next, provide the same markup. And then use content projection. Yep. Declared inside the view only. Makes sense. Modifying service visibility. They've gotten a lot better with their documentation. They really have. This light is so blinding off to my side here. Like, I can, like, put my hand in front of it, but, like, oh, it's bright. It's right in my face. The things we sacrifice for beauty. Oh. I say as I want to go paint my fingernails. All right. Scope, util. Forward ref. Ooh. Oh wait, forward ref isn't what I'm thinking of. Forward ref is very different. I was thinking of React. This is why learning to program in multiple languages is tricky. Or multiple frameworks is tricky, because you learn one and then you're like, oh, that's what that is. Yeah, forward ref is not the same thing. Injector and injectable. Depreciated from version 5. Use injector.create instead. Ooh, perfect. Explain what, please? What am I explaining? I'm confused. Dev, Cookie Land. What's up? What are you asking about? I'm not following. I love how here it says, this is depreciated, use injector.create. This is depreciated, use this instead. Oh, the forwarding thing being different. Yeah. So in React, we'll do a quick stack blitz. I should have done TypeScript, but whatever. Const other L equals react.forward ref. It's something like ref how does it? It's react forward ref. It's props ref. Yeah, there we go. And then I can return a div with the ref set to ref. And then here, I can say other L ref const L ref equals react dot use ref and then we'll do a react dot use effect lref.current.style.background equals blue. Come on. Come on. Width. Height. I promise I'll explain what I'm doing in just a second. I need to actually just pull up an example. Okay. Word ref example. Okay. Did that just not save? Whatever, fine. So the idea here is, that's words. So the idea here is that, let's say that we had a div here, right, instead of that. So what we're saying here is in React, a ref is a mutable property across multiple re-renders. And what you can do with ref is multiple things, but the main thing you can do with ref is assign it to a reference of a element. And by doing that, you can get an element's attributes exactly. So here, if I did console.log lref.current, you can see that this is an HTML div element. And because of that, we can do .style, and we can style the HTML element directly, right? So if we look at the dev console, I don't know why I'm like hiccuping so much. But we have background blue with 100, and you can see that these are inline styles, right? And that's all because we're styling that element inline right here, right? But let's say that we have like something a little more complex. And we want to have an element that's called other L, and we'll call this hello message. And this hello message says hello world, but we want to make that a blue square as well. So what we can do is we can do something called forward ref, and forward ref accepts props and a normal ref, and we can like do all sorts of things with that ref, but we can basically take this ref and return it back up so that we can do ref equals whatever here. So it's a way of gaining reference to another element. So that's what forward ref does in React. And I'm assuming, let's go read the source code for forward ref really quick. Allows to refer to references in which not are defined yet. For instance, forward ref is used when token. Yeah, so this is to do with dependency injection is forward ref. Oh, and in fact, forward ref, I can show an example of what forward ref does. Yeah, so forward ref does something totally different. Like forward ref in React does forwards the concept of ref, which is a mutable property, from one component upwards in the tree. Forward ref in Angular, we can actually go look at the Angular material source code for an example of that. So let's do, I actually need to write a blog post about that. So I'll put that in my to-do list. I also need to write the React forward ref. So an example of the forward ref here is something like radio. .md.ts. Okay, so if we look at material radio group, you can see that it's actually defined in front of this code in particular, or is it behind? Yeah, it's in front of this code in particular. And you can also see that radio button, it's, how do I explain this? TypeScript wants your files to be in order, right? So it wants you to have one thing on top, and then it wants you to have another thing on the other. What it doesn't want you to do is it doesn't want you to have cyclical dependencies within a file. So you shouldn't be able to have a file that's type contains metadata about another type that's in that same file that then references that other type, etc., right? Forward ref is a hack to get around that. Basically what it's saying is that instead of referencing what it's getting in the future, it's just a function that can then return what it needs to get in the future. And because of some complexities in TypeScript, forward ref allows you to kind of hack your way around the problem of having cyclical dependencies in the dependency injection system. Sounds kind of weird because it is. It's a very complex topic, but I promise I'll write a blog. Yeah, not necessarily a class in a class, but a class that depends on a class. So example here, right? So we have a mat radio group, right? And in the mat radio group, we have a content children. And that content children is looking for a radio button, right? But then if we go look at the source code for the radio button, we can see... Oh, where's the constructor? We can see, where is it? Jumping around a little too quick. We can see that the constructor for the radio button itself is looking for a radio group right here, right? So you have a radio group that is looking for radio buttons, and you have the radio buttons which is looking for the radio group. So that's a cyclical dependency within itself. And you can't import these files directly because then you have a Barrel.js import problem where you're just importing forever. So you have to have them in the same file, and because you have them in the same file, and they're cyclically referencing each other, what you have to do is you have to use forward ref to say, hey, go reference the other. And then that way it breaks the cyclical dependency nature because it's being resolved at runtime rather than being resolved at compile time. And you can resolve a cyclical dependency on runtime, but not at build time. Awesome. I'm glad you get it. It's really hard to explain. Which is why I'm kind of like stuttering with my words because I've only ran into it like once or twice. It's kind of a niche edge case. But yeah, they're super different from React and Angular. So yeah, follow-up question. What's up? How does the parser read that? I'm laughing because that's a really good and complicated question that I don't know that we're going to go find out. I explained fine, cool. I'm glad I wasn't too confusing. So let's go find out. Let's read. The forward ref is used when the token, which we need to refer to in the dependencies, is declared but not yet defined. Yeah, so basically, it's reading it as, where's type coming from? Oh, it's function, huh? Okay. But it's reading it as if it like kind of doesn't exist. So it's hacking the compilation to say, hey, don't worry about it for now. And then at runtime, when it runs, runtime, which could be compile time it too, it basically resolves then because it's a function, and functions handle differently. So it runs the function, gets a return type, and then is able to read the class instantiation and stuff like that. That's how I understand the parser reads it. But I don't know for sure. So like, let's look at the inject. Yep. Inject is a callable param decorator. So inject accepts forward ref like vanilla JavaScript does with declared, but not an instantiated var. Oh. Let's find out. TypeScript. Yeah, var something. Yeah. I don't know for sure. Let's find out. Is there no TypeScript compiler in AST Explorer? So we can do let something and const something should be yours. Yeah. So let's do No, you're good. Don't worry about it. I understand what you're saying. Const return x. And then returns function any. Oh, function is not generic. Okay. So here we will have, this is not quite as good as the AST Explorer. Oh, here we go. It's like return X returns the identifier, and then the identifier is referenced later. Syntax identifier escape text string. The same hoisting thingy does happen with functions that are declared as functions literals versus function expression. I'm not sure I follow what you're saying anymore. The last thing you said threw me off. Same hoisting thingy happens with functions. Oh, yeah. Function literals, as in like const something versus function literal. Yeah. And then it hoists it up, so then it's able to read and identify. Yeah, I get what you're saying. And it's the same thing with var versus const. Yeah, because that's the, that kind of goes into play with like the DMZ, which is, for constant let versus var, the definition declaration. Yeah. I think here it doesn't care. Oh, declaration. Oh, okay, so it does care. Okay, so because it's a class, evidently the symbol is already registered, so it seems like the class is already raising up. So yeah, I think it's very similar. Is it DM? I thought I said DMZ. Because it's like the demilitarized zone or something. I don't remember what it's called. Let hoisting. What is it? It's, is it DMZ? What is it? Hang on. Maybe, what is it called? What is it called? It's the var hoisting versus let. It's something like the DM something. I don't remember what it's called. Something zone. Temporal dead zone. TDZ. That's what it is. I don't know why I thought it was DMZ. It's the TDZ. Yep, temporal dead zone. That's what I was trying to find. I was like, what is it called? Because it has to do with, like, this is... Oh, Westboss, that's fantastic. It's just, wow, you have a big monitor. What size does that show up? Oh, yeah. DMZ is with routing. Yeah. My monitor just barely defines into the wow, you have a big monitor. I'm definitely going to have to post that one. That's great. Oh, Westboss's sites are always great. Yeah. I just got my terms mixed up. But yeah, it seems like a very similar thing is happening here, where class is referencing up, and as such, the AST is able to identify that this is a declaration, but it's not declared yet, so it's having a weird time. I don't know the exacts. I haven't messed with the TypeScript compiler. I've done a lot with the Babel compiler, though. That's why I'm excited to write the forward ref article about Angular, because it'll make me learn better to explain to, you know. We got very sidetracked. We started talking about the forward ref and stuff, and that, like, you know what, though? I feel like we made a lot of good progress today. Or at least I covered a lot of, I learned a lot of the things that I wanted to learn. And I feel a lot more comfortable, at least with the dependency injection system and some other things. So that was cool. Yeah. I vote we call it. Because it's 2 hours. That's usually how long my Thursday live streams are. I've got some other stuff I need to take care of today. And, yeah.